Welcome to Mintel's Little Conversation podcast.
Hello and welcome to Mintel's Little Conversation, where our experts bring you fresh ideas and new perspectives on how consumers eat, drink, shop, groom, and think. I'm Matthew Crabb, Director of Trends in Asia Pacific here at Mintel. Today, I'm joined by Laurie in Shanghai, Huajun in Seoul, and Reiko in Tokyo to discuss what's trending in new beauty ingredients in North Asia Pacific, and perhaps find out what our analysts think will be the big new trending ingredient in beauty in the months to come. So to get us started, can I ask you all to introduce yourselves and tell us a little bit about your role at Mintel? Laurie, do you want to go first?
Yeah, sure. I'm Laurie. I'm based in Shanghai. I'm the senior analyst for beauty and personal care platform. Now I'm taking the China-related content in BPC platform. Before joining Mintel, I was in the roles of consumer insights and sensory evaluation in beauty industry.
Thanks, Laurie. Huajun, would you like to go next?
Hello, I'm Huajun, located in Seoul. My background is R&D. I was a formulation scientist for 15 years and now work as beauty and personal care analyst at Mintel.
Great. Thanks, Huajun. And Reiko.
Hi, I'm Reiko. I'm Mintel's beauty and personal care analyst based in Tokyo. I'm responsible for analyzing and providing insights on trends in the Japanese beauty market. I'm a skincare enthusiast and former fashion addict.
Brilliant, thank you. Right, so first question. Consumers in North APAC seem to be getting very technical in the ingredients they're searching for. Perhaps you can explain to us why this is, what's driving this behavior, and where they're getting their information from. Who'd like to go first?
I think I can go. So in general, we can say that South Korean consumers are well educated in beauty product and its ingredient. I think that one of the reasons would be some safety issues in South Korean beauty and personal care business a few years ago. For example, the chemical concerns like paraben, formaldehyde, phthalate were kind of huge issue in South Korea. And those safety issues let South Korean consumers have more interest on ingredient safety in beauty product and get more knowledge about ingredient year by year. And regarding the information sources, I'll say that the mobile beauty applications are common sources for ingredient in South Korea. One of the famous mobile applicators are called Hwahae that provide ingredient safety information based on Environmental Working Group, EWG. And the other information sources, I can say that would be influencers in YouTube and blogs. Some beauty influencers actually talking about beauty product with its ingredient information.
So talking about influences, is South Korea influencing China and Japan in the same way? Laurie, Reiko.
Yeah, I think I should answer the question first. Then I will talk about the influence from South Korea. So I think when it comes to the ingredient thing, I think in China it's quite similar. I think the safety concern is the priority. Yeah, that's why consumers, they care more about ingredients nowadays. So they really care about what kind of things they have applied to their skin. So that's their safety concern. I think another reason is efficacy expectations. So consumers, they are really looking for something more than just being safe. You know, the products need to carry specific benefits. So the benefits consumers, they are seeking, like the efficacy, including diversified efficacies, including anti-aging, skin brightening, etc. So I think that's some of the reasons behind, and I think there are also some micro point of view to explain the change, because I think that should be the growing or the rising of young generations in China. They are kind of digital natives. So they are really enthusiastic to seek the information and have discussion with their peers on internet. So in China, we have different sources like SNS platform and WeChat public account, and also some knowledge sharing websites. And just now, Huajun mentioned about Hwahae. In China, we have a similar app. It's called Beauty Evolution. So consumers, they can seek some information related to ingredients there. yeah, I think that's basically the thing in China.
Excellent. Thank you there, Laurie. Reiko, what's the situation in Japan?
I think the situation is quite similar in Japan too, and the behavior is driven by safety issues, but it's also because many consumers are suffering from sensitive skin. And if you have sensitive skin, you tend to want to know more about the ingredients you need to avoid. And besides that, there is also a growing interest in sustainability because a lot of brands are raising awareness. So more consumers are keen to learn more about natural ingredients, where they came from, where they were grown, and how the products are produced. And I would also say Japanese consumers are ingredient savvy in general too, because Japanese brands have been quite good at telling a story that makes information much more memorable. So in a way, brands have been educating the consumers about the ingredients and their benefits for a long time. And in terms of sources, brands are still a lead information source for many consumers today, but nearly 70% of young women collect information that goes beyond the control of manufacturers and retailers. So they will check websites like @Cosme for general information, but they will also use apps like Lips to check reviews and real voices from people who have actually used the products.
Interesting. So they're looking for information, but is it true that consumers are looking for more scientific proof than before in terms of the information that they're looking for? And what kind of proof is it that they're looking for? What do they need to know that works for sure?
Yeah, I think it is true that Chinese consumers, they are looking for more scientific proof than before, because like what I've mentioned about the growing of younger generations. So and I think actually in China they are seeking like very diversified indicators to prove that the products would work for them. So they are seeking like the benefits. So what kind of benefits the ingredients are carrying, so they know what kind of thing will take effect on their skin. And also they need to know they're also interested to know the concentration level, like what works best and what level will bring no irritation to their skin. And also they would like to know the pairing between different ingredients, so that will make it to maximize the active ingredients. And in addition to that, there are other indicators like the suppliers or the R&D background, or even like the patent technology. And so just now I was checking about the survey result. We have like 43 consumers. They consider that the use of patented ingredients are important factors when they are choosing facial skincare products. So I will say that it is sure that consumers, they are looking for more scientific proof than before.
That's really interesting. So they're looking all the way back to even patents. So the original research.
Yeah, quite a lot of, like 43% of them said so.
That's very interesting. And are there any particular sources of information they feel are more believable or more authoritative than others?
Yeah, we have in our consumer survey, we also asked about the experienced experts or like the advanced technology. These are all some very important factors they will consider.
Right. What's the situation in South Korea and Japan? Is it similar?
Yeah, we can say that's similar. And I'll say that according to Mintel survey, half of South Koreans agree that they trust beauty product created with scientifically proven ingredient and formulation. And interestingly, only 10% of South Koreans disagree with that. Obviously, this is a huge number, right? So I'll say that scientifically proven skin beneficial claim like, moisturizing, anti-aging, whitening would appeal to South Korean consumer. For example, clinical tests for each skin beneficial claim will work in South Korean market. And the other thing I'd like to mention is that we expect that more consumer will look for expert to get a proper information rather than beauty influencers. So some scientific explanation from the expert also work in the market, I think.
Interesting. And Reiko?
It's interesting that Hwa-jun mentioned that half of South Korean consumers trust beauty products created with scientifically proven ingredients, because the percentage for that in Japan is only 36%, which is lower, and surprisingly 79% in China, which is much higher. It's a bit here. But Japanese consumers are still seeking for a sense of reassurance when investing in luxury beauty products like anti-aging products, because they can be quite expensive. So consumers want to have some sort of proof and know that it's worth investing in it before purchasing it.
Interesting. So, COVID-19 has changed a lot of things recently in many aspects of all that we do. So what do you feel that the big changes will be that we should look out for in terms of beauty ingredients and their development? Is it continuing to be about safety and hygiene, or are there sort of wider themes appearing? And why do you think consumers are looking for those? Maybe, Reiko, we can go back to you again.
You just mentioned safety and hygiene, which is still very key in the Japanese market. Many companies are looking into antibacterial claims and how they can use them in skincare and also scalp care while maintaining a healthy balance of good bacteria on the skin. And in terms of consumers, it seems like consumers are looking for safety and hygiene in store and retailers, but they're also seeking comfort and daily protection and products and brands. So ever since the outbreak, consumers are feeling a much more stronger need to protect themselves by wearing masks, washing their hands, and also using sanitizers. But at the same time, they're experiencing a lot of stress. So recently, I spotted brands like Call Me, which launched stress relieving, deodorizing, and antibacterial aroma sprays for face masks, which consumers can use throughout the day.
Interesting. And Hwa-jun, are you seeing similar kind of trends emerging in Korea?
Yeah, I'll say that safety, hygiene are obviously mainstreaming in the COVID-19 era in South Korea also.
Yeah.
And I'd like to point out that the wearing mask situation. So in South Korea, wearing a facial mask in public transportation, and stores is mandatory recently. And wearing the facial mask may cause some skin irritation issues. So actually, South Korean consumer have some concern about it. Actually, reported their skin irritation issues. So, in beauty business, soothing and anti-irritation claims are emerging right now. I'll say that. And in terms of ingredient, of soothing and anti-irritation, I can say that Centella asiatica, that is known as Seika in South Korea beauty business. And Centella have been one of the most famous soothing active for a few years in South Korean skincare market. And still, many soothing products utilize Centella as a soothing active ingredient. And the other botanical ingredient like tea tree and Artemisia are mainstreaming in soothing product in South Korea.
Interesting. Well, let's soothe our way over to Shanghai. Laurie, obviously China's come out of the lockdown a lot earlier than many other countries. What's the situation there?
Yeah, I think as you said, I think safety and hygiene is kind of growing its importance, but definitely consumers, they have their diversified needs. I think that's just now Hwa-jun mentioned about the soothing, the repair. I think that's quite similar that in Shanghai, because, and also I'd like to point out the Centella asiatica. Actually, several years ago, we introduced this as a latest trend in South Korea to China, but at that time, Centella asiatica in China is more about antioxidant and like anti-aging. But now, several years later, we find that this ingredients is picking up again, and now it's mainly focusing on the soothing and to help you relieve some of symptoms due to wearing masks. So I think that's quite similar in the whole Asia countries. And also, I'd like to say that just now Reiko mentioned about distressing this kind of claim. I believe that will be the next trend. I think consumers, they will definitely seek more benefits in beauty and personal care products to make them to just give them kind of relief in this very stressful and really kind of tough situations.
Interesting. So you're already hinting that there are going to be changes in the future. So let's look more into the future, as Mintel likes to do. So in Mintel's 2030 beauty and personal care trend, identity traders, we were talking about things like NASA farmed ingredients and looking into space for the next generation products. Now, what are these next generation products likely to be that are going to fall down from space onto us? And would they work well with consumers in Asia Pacific, do you think?
I think that's a very interesting topic. NASA farmed ingredients it sounds so high tech, and actually, it reminds me of the one product in China which was launched like 4 years ago by Jialan Group, actually a leading personal care group in China. So at that time, they say that they have selected thousands of different rose seeds. So they sent these seeds to the outer space through China's practice number 10 satellite. So due to the outer space, the environment is so different from that on Earth, like the very extreme conditions, like the gravity level and also like the vacuum kind of circumstances. So they said that after some time, they will just send back these seeds from the satellite, then cultivated. So after some times, only those seeds they survived successfully will be transplanted to Yunnan province. So that which means through this kind of space biotechnology, they can bring the strongest seeds, botanicals, which they will then be used to beauty products. I think that's a very interesting case and also very attracting kind of concept to consumers. I think in the coming years, there will be more this kind of cases or these products to include more this high tech or this like space technology, biotechnology in the future. But I think the next generation's products, they need to have both concept and also has very strong efficacy. So I think that's will just help to keep the consumers. The thing is, we need to make concept attractive and also bring very good efficacy and good usage experience to consumers.
Sure. Oh, that's really interesting. I mean, this idea of efficacy is obviously really important for ingredients, but I'm interested by this idea of the concept. Now, Hua-Jun, would the concept of space-farmed ingredients be something that South Korean consumers would be interested in?
Yeah, actually, I think I can introduce some interesting product that were launched very recently in South Korea. The product name is Dr. Jarut, a solar biome sun cream. Actually, they claim that an ingredient called a solar biome contains 2 space bugs. Actually, those 2 space bugs were able to survive more than a year at the space station. That, very harsh condition, So they also claim that ingredients from these bacteria are effective in blocking ultraviolet rays. I think that this product may be a kind of perfect example of space concept beauty product in South Korea. And I think that some South Korean consumers feel that space concept would be a little bit far from their current beauty routine. And however, some ingredient from extreme environment, extreme condition like desert, deep sea, even volcano, may appeal to South Korean consumer who may think that those ingredients have some special skincare benefit.
That's really interesting. So sort of extreme conditions as well. Reiko, do you think the Japanese beauty market is really sort of ready for space-aged ingredients, or are consumers in Japan looking for something a bit more down to earth?
I think Japan might be a bit behind on this one because I haven't seen that many hit products from local brands that are linked to space and space farming yet. I remember there was one product from Lancome, but that was, I think, 2 years ago. But space exploration was a talked about topic last year after a Japanese space agency revealed its Space Food X project, which co-creates solution for food problems in space. So I think people do see potential in space farm ingredients, and I'm sure there are a lot of projects happening beneath the surface. But at the time, for now, I haven't seen that many products yet.
Right.
But of products, I think it will work well with sustainability and the wellness story that the Space Food X project has already created. So plant-based solutions and engineered natural ingredients will be key.
That's really interesting. And of course, there's always quite a lot of crossover between the food and the beauty realms in terms of ingredients. And I suppose another thing that COVID has taught us is that both in terms of food and beauty, we've had to do a lot of DIY at-home cooking and home grooming in the past few months during lockdown. Now, do you think that people have got used to that and will continue to have their own DIY routines at home? Or do you think people are going to go back to how things were and going to salons and beauticians and so on? Or is it going to be something sort of hybrid, a mixture of the two? What are your thoughts? Maybe I'll start with Hua Jun.
Okay, obviously, South Korean people are staying home longer than before COVID-19. And with many people I think that this could be the next normal lifestyle in South Korea. In beauty business, regarding that, home beauty trend is in highlight. Home beauty may include aesthetic concept skincare like massage and aesthetic concept hair care, including hair treatment, hair colorant, and at-home beauty device like LED mask for skin brightening. And DIY at home could be part of home beauty, I think. And also, I expect that home beauty trend may continue even after COVID-19.
That's interesting. Now, when I think of DIY, I think of drills and saws and hammers and that sort of thing. Do you think people are going to be looking for not just the beauty products for home, whether it's hair or skincare, but also for devices? I mean, what do you think in for example, China? Laurie, are you seeing people buying more at-home beauty devices as well as products?
Yeah, sure. I think actually there are some. I think I recently saw the data released by Temu. Actually, their beauty devices segment is growing really, really fast in recent 2 years. So I think that's really. I agree what Hua Jun has said about DIY as part of home beauty. So you just now you also said about what's DIY in your mind. So if a couple of years back, maybe 5 or 6 years ago, Chinese consumers, they are really doing this kind of DIY at home. So they are really based on those raw material, like some fruits, some food to put on their skin. But now they realize that it doesn't make any it doesn't work. So because they've developed a lot of knowledge on ingredients. So they have some concerns on hygiene and about bacteria during the process of which, because you're not just do some cooking. But I think in the future, there will be more scientific sense of DIY. So which can really have some elements of hygiene and really can boost in efficacy by preserving well the active ingredients. So and also I would like to say DIY as the semi-DIY. So that will definitely continue in the future. So they, for example, like the selection of active ingredients to activate while you are using it, the fresh mix, and also like the DIY with different fragrance types. So like, the fragrance preference can be very different because it's very individual. So however, I've seen this kind of products in China. You need to add some capsule of fragrance into the shampoo by yourself. I think that's quite a good idea. So and I think it can also be linked with sustainable, the product, the environment protection, because you don't need to produce a lot of different products with different fragrance type. You just need to add a small kind of capsule into the products. So I think that will definitely go on in the future, but in different formats.
Interesting. So Reiko, do you think in Japan will DIY beauty be a trend? And perhaps expanding on what Laurie was saying, do you think there's an element of that sort of tailoring or individualization of products that is going to play well in the market there?
The situation here is quite similar to South Korea. So many Japanese consumers turned to DIY beauty because they were stuck at home, had more time on their hands. But many people also realize that DIY beauty is also about self-care, self-love, and self-satisfaction. So I think the trend is here to stay. Mm-hmm. I'm saying this because according to Mintel's global consumer data, 53% of Japanese consumers said beauty routines are a good way to reduce stress. And besides that, there is also a growing interest in emotional well-being. So brands can continue to cater to these needs by offering ways to de-stress and relax more at home. And for examples, yes, brands can take inspirations from spa treatments to maximize users' experience, or even give ingredients and DIY kits to boost creativity and also help consumers unleash their inner child at home.
Their inner child, gosh. So yeah, it's an interesting subject, this whole shift in mindset about well-being, about moving it from just being about physical well-being and physical beauty, but more that sort of inner beauty, inner well-being, mental well-being. Now, we have, of course, are seeing that shift across the region in many different aspects, not just in the beauty world, but also in terms of food and drink, the kind of holidays that people want, how they de-stress after work, and so on and so forth. So this is kind of leading on to the big question, if you like. What do you, as the Mintel experts, think will be the next big ingredient to watch out for in beauty in Asia? And does it have something to do with that more emotional, mental well-being side?
In Japan last year, we saw a lot of new products based on retinol. So I think for Japan, the next big ingredient will be safer alternatives like bakuchiol, which hasn't hit the mainstream in Japan yet. It's quite big in the US and Europe, but it's not that big in Japan yet. And there's plenty of space to experiment with bakuchiol and also promote its anti-aging benefits and wellness properties. It's also suitable for most skin types, so it could appeal to consumers with sensitive skin and people suffering from acne, the acne and skin irritation from wearing masks. And besides that, also vegan ingredients, because there has been a lot of hype around K-beauty brands that claim to be vegan. So I'm sure there are a lot of Japanese brands that are looking into that as well.
Oh, that's interesting. So vegan as in terms of the contents of beauty products as well as the food and drink. Very interesting. So you just mentioned that that's something that's happened in Korea. Hwa-jun, maybe you could expand on that a little bit and give us your ideas of what the big ingredients are going to be.
Sure. So for South Korean market, I'd like to mention probiotics at first. Based on our GMPD, around 2% of new skincare launches have probiotic claim. Yes, this is still very niche, but the important thing to me is growing year by year. So, and I'll say that skin barrier enhancement benefit and well-being concept of probiotics will appeal to South Korean consumer in the near future. And second thing that I want to mention is a sustainably engineered ingredient. So according to our Mintel survey, a third of South Koreans have interest in beauty products that are sustainably sourced. And more interesting thing is here, 23% of South Koreans have interest in sustainable synthetic ingredient. That means that chemical ingredient created in the lab that are ethically or environmental friendly way. So I'll say that the doubts about sustainability of natural ingredients are rising. And sustainability would be one of the important criteria to choose beauty product regardless its ingredient origin. So to achieve the sustainability of the beauty ingredient, beauty product, new technology like biotechnology or AI or even IT would be actively utilized in the future in South Korea.
That's really interesting. So, Laurie, last but not least, over to you in Shanghai. What's the big ingredient to watch out for in China?
Yeah, I agree with Hua Jin. I also think that the sustainability will be the next big thing. And in addition to that, I think in the short term, in China, the big ingredients to watch will still be those scientifically proven ingredients. So last year we've been talking about some emerging ingredients, but soon they have become mainstream, like what we've said about panthenol, astaxanthin, or semi-white 377, etc. So I think in the coming near future, the combination of active ingredients are introduced by those big ingredient suppliers. They will still be a very big thing. So because they usually come with just a very simple ingredients name, and also they are which makes them easier to be remembered or communicated. And in China, we know that the growing number of indie brands, now they are very active. They directly go to those big ingredient suppliers to seek this the cooperation, and also they highlight this ingredients complex in their communication. So I think that will be something still be the big thing to watch in China.
That's really interesting. Fascinating stuff. Well, you've heard it from the experts. Sadly, that's all we have got time for today. If you want to know more about Mintel, who we are and what we do, head over to mintel.com and follow us on social media. We're on LinkedIn, Instagram, Twitter, and Facebook. And check out our blog for even more insights from our analysts. Thank you for listening. Please make sure you subscribe, rate, and review this podcast. If you like what you've heard today, spread the word, and we will catch you next week for a new episode of Little Conversation. Thank you, Laurie. Thank you, Hua Jun, and thank you, Reiko. Thanks, guys.